Hi everyone and welcome to your latest Planning Outlook updated on Tuesday the 11th of February. Full-on winter conditions have very much made an appearance over the past week and there's some more snow on the way as well. Stormy conditions very much in the forecast again though through into the weekend, so not really great news for getting out and about on the mountains. A bit of a lift of temperatures, particularly in England and Wales, but Scottish Munros broadly staying sub-zero onwards into next week. We'll have a look at snow first of all. This is the ongoing snow depth in 6-hour steps, starting off first thing on Wednesday morning. Extensive cover across the Highlands, particularly in the west and the northwest with the greatest depths, but you can see there's lying snow according to the modelling across Wales, across the Pennines and into the Peak District. A dusting on the tops there compared to the greater amounts in Scotland. Onwards with the story then, through into Wednesday evening and night, and this through into the early hours of Thursday. There will be some snowfall to come across the Pennines as a slow-moving front pivots northwards, the southern uplands too, through Thursday daytime, extending northwards into the southern side of the Highlands. Even at this stage, the exact northward extent is uncertain, but it gives the scope for some further snowfall there through Thursday into Friday, and we just start to see a bit of an easing back of any snow cover across England and Wales, just as we pull some milder air in and freezing levels lift above the summits in England and Wales. But we stick with generally chilly air across the mountains in Scotland. So yeah, there may be a bit of thawing, particularly on lower slopes, but the mountain terrain broadly staying frozen. And there may be some snow that comes back down to lower levels with time through the weekend onwards into next week, as freezing levels just show a sign of dropping again. Scotland mainly then is the focus for any sustained ongoing lying snow. Let's have a look at temperatures, and this is the 850 millibar level, that corresponding to a height between about 1,000 metres and say 1,400 metres in the atmosphere through the days ahead as slightly higher and lower pressure gets into the mix. You could suggest a value of around -6 or below at 1,300 metres on the Scottish high tops through into Wednesday. We see a push of less cold air getting in, wrapped around the next low from the south on Thursday, but across Scotland we hold on to that cold air, so the value suggested here again about 1,300 metres, -4 or a -5. So freezing levels are staying down, terrain widely frozen with snow cover into many of the glens. Toward the end of the week, and we're just getting pushes of milder air coming up from the south and southwest, and I suspect around Friday that we do get up to about freezing point or perhaps just above onto the Munros, maybe temporary just as a warm sector tries to come through. Temperatures tending to drop again overnight into Saturday. The next push of a bit of a warm front goes northwards, and again we may just push up to freezing or just above on the Scottish tops for Saturday. Meanwhile, milder air is generally in across England and Wales. Just to take this on through the latter part of the weekend into next week, and we stay sub-zero above about 800 to 1,000 metres, and that level may come down a touch again as we go back to a polar maritime cold westerly for the early days of next week. So back to a story of snow and hail showers coming in from the Atlantic. Your synoptic charts for the next 5 days go like this. This is Wednesday. That cold westerly flow is staying around for Wednesday across the northern half of Britain, although as pressure begins to build a touch from the south, the intensity and the frequency of the snow and hail will tend to ease back with time through Wednesday. But really, across the west and northwest Highlands, snow and hail will still come in much of the day, tending to fade mostly across Wales and the Pennines. There, though, we have some high cloud beginning to build, and fronts are approaching from the Atlantic, and that will bring the snow turning to rain across Wales overnight into Thursday. That's where we get to by the middle of Thursday, a broad centre of low pressure across the country, not as deep or as active a system as what we saw earlier on in the week, but it brings a zone of slow-moving snow across the southern side of Scotland. Even now, as I mentioned, the northern extent of that into the Highlands is up for grabs. I think the central and southern parts of the Highlands will get a good few hours of persistent snow, which may well fall heavily. The further north and west you go, the chances are you miss this altogether through Thursday. Across the southern uplands, the borders, the Cheviots, the Pennines, I think snow will fall much of the day, maybe breaking up a bit from the west and turning a bit sleety lower down across the lakes and Pennines, and particularly for Wales, more like sleet rain or perhaps a mix of some hail getting in as some more unstable air just follows in the wake of the centre of that low. A brief lull in the wind is possible for some, but still a risk of an easterly that could be gusting 30-40 miles per hour across central Scotland, so that's scope for blizzard conditions across the Highlands with that snow that's around. That low moves away eastwards into Friday, and we're back on the move again from the Atlantic as strengthening south by southwesterlies are there. Risk of severe gales gusting 60-70 miles per hour across the higher tops for Friday. A frontal system coming in with that warm sector producing a lift of freezing levels. We may well just see some snow falling across the highlands to lower slopes for a time and then becoming sleety and wet lower down, and maybe even up above, say, 700 metres. We may go a bit sleety through Friday. The higher tops still more likely staying just sub-zero, persisting over a good many hours, setting in then for a spell, and some rain across Wales and the Pennines too, only briefly starting as snow here, I would have thought. Behind the cold front, yes, temperatures will tend to fall again, not a marked drop though, so not intensely cold air behind that cold front on this occasion, but it may just produce some icy conditions where any rain or snow melt occurs for a time during Friday, so bear that in mind, that temperatures will at least tend to drop again behind that front. It's all looking very active into the weekend once again, I'm afraid, though, as the Atlantic weather systems are steaming in. Once again, a bit like Friday, within the warm sector, a bit of a lift of freezing level will take things sleety and wet up to about Munro level, and maybe just even to the higher tops for a time. Across England and Wales, broadly all rain, and the risk of some heavy rain coming in on various rippling fronts here, so some concerns for further flooding in these areas that have been very wet during this past week, and the risk of gales, severe gales or stormy winds across the mountains for Saturday. Could be a similar story, I'm afraid, into Sunday. It's low pressure toward the north, another deep feature. I think that centre of low pressure is the one that's been now named Storm Dennis, and that producing the risk of widespread gales, storm-force winds, hurricane-force winds even across the higher mountains, especially in Scotland. A waving front passing eastwards across England and Wales produces the risk of some heavy rain, with then into a chillier air mass, temperatures and freezing levels falling, and clusters of snow and hail showers coming back in from the Atlantic through the day. Not a pleasant weekend once again, overall, it must be said. The ongoing story into next week, I'll show you a few charts here. This showing the general temperature profile and shows the extent of cold air that exists across the North Atlantic, coming around off northern Canada and Greenland once again. So it's back to square one, really, I suspect, as we go into the early days of next week with that cold westerly flow with snow and hail, and low pressure still very much in charge. This chart shows you some precipitation then, and that shows the speckled nature of showers coming in. This is through into Monday of next week on that cold westerly showery regime. Frontal systems away into Europe by this stage. Brief push of cold northwesterlies will lower the freezing levels, it looks like, around Tuesday, and then higher pressure to our southwest looks as though it wants to try and build. Now, timing uncertain, this is about a week away, but the signal is there for a build of pressure and things to just quieten down, at least for a day or so. Notice that there's weather systems back over the Atlantic waiting in the wings, so it might just be a few days of something of a lull. But there's that scope, I suppose, just for trying to settle a little bit through the middle of next week. And I'll finish with this one, which is the general pressure anomaly for the week as a whole up until the 24th of February. It suggests an ongoing pattern of west or southwesterly wind flows with high pressure strongly to the south, low pressure strongly to the north. It looks as though the high has greatest influence across England and Wales, so a greater chance of being drier with some more settled days here. Meanwhile, for Scotland, I'd suggest frequent precipitation still coming in off the Atlantic. And as the flow comes more from the southwest, temperatures probably lifting with time, but still the odd chillier west by northwesterly day in there. I think that ongoing pattern is just continuing. Stay up to date then every day with your local forecasts here at the Mountain Weather Information Service, and I'll update the video for you again on Friday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.